Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Will.
Hi. I'm not able to see you, Bill.
Right now, my name is on by Andy Magnus. So, not that I don't love Andy, but
Oh yeah, Andy. You can change your name in the top right of your box. Click the three little dots,
Okay.
and then you should have a rename option.
Rename. Yep.
Oh, why can't we see Bill?
Darn, I thought I'd gotten a promotion.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Bill, unmute yourself. You're muted.
There's still another Bill Purnett.
Yes, there is.
good morning, all.
Is it possible he tried to get on another time and
There it
there's
goes.
two instances of him trying to come on? Duplicity?
Could be. It changed to Ted.
It could be the Matrix.
I can't make up my mind who I want to be.
Feeling a little schizophrenic today, a little bipolar.
Really, and I didn't take my drugs this morning either.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that reminds me, I better go take him.
Never leave home without them.
I like your mug, Cara.
Thank you. Hey, I have a tie for you.
Oh,
I need
do
to
you?
bring it. Yeah, I need to bring it. I think I've told you about this like 400 times every time I see you. I'm going to write myself a note.
Well, I hope one day that we get to do the face-to-face thing again.
I know. I'll spray it with Lysol before I give it to you.
So, yeah, I have a cartoon mug also. I don't know that you can.
It keeps disappearing. Well, okay. Oh, yes. And just for you, Dale. That's it. That's about all I'll give on that one.
Okay.
Is there a story there that we're not privy to?
Yeah, it's private. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
between Bill and me.
We promise not to tell.
It was just Dale helping me with my presentation. That's all.
Okay.
It's something that could produce a story for another day.
Yeah, but not now. I spent $20 for no reason now. That's okay, because I'm enjoying it. I mean, who remembers this? I do.
See, I have a Gumby tie,
Do you?
of course.
Do you remember the horse's name?
Pokey.
Yes. I couldn't remember it. I remember Gumby, but not Pokey.
It's good that you guys know all these things.
That's essential information.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's why we never fly alone, right? Because I would never have known that without you guys.
The Gumby and the Pokey?
Yeah.
Hi, buddy. Hi.
By the way, good morning, everyone. Also, all of our attendees, hello to you. We got
Oops.
Bill Higley, Deb Bocamper, Gail Moran, Lisa Oxenandler, Lori Sinclair, Mark Primer, Michelle Moore, Rhonda Gray, Richard Terry, Rick Shore, Steve Nardoni. That's a good name we haven't seen in a while. Ted and Zach. Good to see you too, Zach. There's Ann popping on. So hello, everyone.
Did you say Greg, Will?
Greg. There is no Greg. Oh, my phone's going. Somebody can't get in.
Greg is a new subscriber.
Yep.
Morning, this is Will. Hi. All you should be able to do is watch. You shouldn't be able to talk.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, all.
Hi, Mary.
How are y'all?
Good.
Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. 2 mornings in a row, Andy.
I'm sorry.
Our condolences, Mary.
Yeah. I just said 2 mornings in a row I'm seeing
I
you.
know it. It's I don't know how to handle this, and we get to see one another tomorrow too.
All right.
And that, yeah, and that arch that frames your head like a halo.
You like that?
Now, I'm not sure a halo is appropriate, but
Well, it's the image I do want to project.
Yeah.
okay.
Law of attraction.
Yeah.
If he puts one there long enough, it'll actually show.
Yeah, but my horns are holding up the arch, actually.
There you go. In my office back here, I'm with a 17-year-old dog who sometimes likes to walk around, so I really hope you won't be able to hear him.
He's 17.
Yeah.
Oh,
What kind of a dog?
He's a Chihuahua mix, a
Really?
rescue dog. Yeah. His name's Ivan the Terrible.
love
I've always did that to yourself for 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
He's,
cat just turned 18 this week, so.
Hey, there you go.
Dang.
Yeah, well, I turned 76, so there.
Yeah.
Kinda
You got everybody beat.
You do, Bill.
How was your birthday, Bill?
Great. Great. We went out to dinner, actually, for the first time.
Man. Where did you guys?
Bill, you're 532 in dog years.
Oh.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you, Bill. A fun fact.
You were feeling pretty good till that, weren't you, Bill?
Andy, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think.
I actually posted that in my high school Facebook page. I'm 500, so I'm not far behind you.
Oh.
So, Bill, did you guys go to the club or?
No, Paul Manos.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, we figured that was a pretty safe place. You know, when the owner's cooking the food, you know you're in pretty good shape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the club opens today. Meadowbrook opens today for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
25%, the 25% distancing and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah.
My nephew works at what's the one over at Barry and Lockwood, Westboro, and he said April and May are the busiest months they've ever had in the history of the club.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
With takeout meals and stuff?
Well, no, just with people golfing.
Oh.
They have new rules.
What else was there to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Everybody they have rules where only one person per cart, and
Yeah.
the tee times are farther apart. But, yeah.
That's good, because that way nobody's keeping track of your score.
Yeah.
You can kind of make it up as you go along.
Yeah.
Kathy, is that one of your quilts behind you?
On mute.
Pretty.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
That's
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Are you working on any now?
I am actually going to go out and go to a quilting retreat this weekend. So.
Oh,
Wow.
I was thinking about doing that myself.
Yeah.
Right after
Well,
the
you
golf
have to
game.
keep your social
Right.
distancing, and you're welcome.
Does it keep you in stitches, Kathy?
Wow.
Will, can you mute him, please?
You're definitely cut from a different cloth.
Oh,
Mute her too. You
I'm
punt, you
seeing
get
the
muted.
As well as your website going down. So
Oh, I know. My website's headed down.
Glenda, it looks like you've lost control already.
I have. You know, I'm waiting my turn, Dale. Will's going to turn me on at 8:45, so I'm just letting him go.
yeah, you know,
A wise woman, wise woman.
getting a little patchy here, I think.
We're up to 33 attendees at the moment, or sorry, 23. So that's fantastic.
Bill, if you look in the chat, you're getting some birthday wishes.
oh, thank you. I didn't even think to look there. Thank you.
Yeah. So Will, when it says 32 participants, is that counting all of the panelists? Is when it says 32?
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, well, don't we count? I mean, we do count, don't we? No.
No, can you count?
Well,
Hey, Will.
I'm an accountant. I can tell you that.
I need Will, can I ask you a technical question since I was unable to make the technical thing yesterday?
Yep.
When I open up at the end for Q&A, should I be reading the chat box to see what those Q&A might be, if there are any, or do you tell me what those are?
Bill, do you want me to pitch those to Mary, or?
Yeah, I think so, if you don't mind.
That'd be awesome, because I don't mind reading it too. It's just, you know, a multitasking thing.
I can do it.
Thank you.
And Q&A is at the end, correct?
Yeah,
Of the meeting?
correct.
All Q&A
Correct.
is
I've got
at the end of the
about
meeting?
15 minutes, I think.
Oh, at
I'll
the end
shut
of
up
the
after 15 minutes
presentation?
anyway. So
Okay, I just need clarity. End of her presentation Q&A or end of the meeting?
presentation,
Okay,
because since I do have to bug out today about 9:30.
that's what I thought. Okay, great.
Which I apologize for. It was the only time this client could meet. So
I don't think anybody should be apologizing for having business, Mary.
yeah, in these trying times, it's good to be flexible with clients.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember Pasta House, but we had the one of the three owners of Pasta House to our sales meeting one time, and the purpose of him being there was to tell us about Pasta House's mission statement. And he said, our mission statement is Bob, B-O-B. And I'm like, wow, bend over backwards is was their mission statement. And I thought, you know, with all of the discussion we have about mission statements and all of that, I thought, how clever to just narrow it down to that, you know. Of course, he has since passed away, but it was really it was very interesting.
Was that Kim or was it John?
John Ferrara.
He's a very nice man.
Oh, just super guy.
All three of them, really.
Yeah.
Really good people.
It's amazing that chain is still running.
I know. Well, Joe was the real estate guy, I think. He was so I guess that kind of helps.
They had a finance guy. I don't know if he's still with them. That really was the heart of the company, though. He really ran the company. They were, you know, they had the money, but he really made it happen. I can't even remember his name now. Best chicken
Smart.
livers.
That's typical for us finance guys. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. You know.
I was teeing that up for you, Dale.
Yeah.
Finance, you know, the finance guy, whatever.
Well, Dale, you're unusual for a finance guy, and you have a personality.
Well, thank you. You know, it's interesting. Over the years, when I would meet people and they'd say, well, what do you do? I'm a CPA. And they go, no way. You know, so I'd have to whip out my AI CPA membership card just to prove that I really was an accountant.
Yeah.
Andy, did you get a call? Did you get a call yesterday from somebody that was looking to talk to you? I don't know how he got my number, but somebody called me yesterday looking for you.
I didn't get to. I was in meetings all day, so I'll check my messages this morning.
Okay.
Hope it wasn't a bill collector.
I only said he wanted to buy something, so I thought, okay, well, I'll send them on.
I see Dan on. Good morning. Thad, I see Thad just came on. That's good.
Dan
Hi, Thad. Hi, Thad. Sorry.
Dan Fazio.
John Ayers. Good morning, Vietnam.
Well,
Hi,
see,
John.
a little more enthusiasm, Kara.
Good morning, Vietnam. Hi.
Good morning, Vietnam.
There you go.
I have a buddy that when he answers the phone, that's when he knows it's me. He does it every time.
I'm surprised he wouldn't just hang up if he found out it was you.
Well, he's also a client, so you know.
Oh, there you go.
The other morning I surprised him though. I picked up the phone and said, "What?" He broke up laughing.
Glenda, I think we're about ready to roll.
All right, let's rock and roll, Will. All right, good morning, good morning. Boy, it's so exciting to be able to be with people. People, my tribe. I am so excited. Welcome to all of our E4E partners, subscribers, and guests today. We are super excited to have you join us for the May virtual meeting. And yeah, it's a little bit different virtually, and I'm probably thinking that most of us are getting a little tired of virtual meetings, but you know what? It's what we've got. And most days I am grateful that I can connect with people virtually. So I am so thrilled that we're able to continue to connect with our community, even though it is through this media. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you set aside the time, which all of you did, and although I can't see you, the way our format is a webinar, I can't actually see my audience, which if you can appreciate is a challenge for me. I can see my panelists and speakers, but I can't see the audience. But since you did, sign in this morning to be with the E4E community, I would ask you for your assistance to make this meeting the main thing. Keep the main thing, because what I found, even for myself, that when I'm attending virtual meetings, I tend to get sort of distracted because I'm in my home office. I have a different environment. And like today, I can't actually see all of you, but you signed up to attend the meeting today. You are setting aside the time. And I can assure you that all of our speakers today have put in quality time and effort to present to you quality content, as we have, as always in the past, to our E4E community. So I would ask all of you to set aside your cell phone, unless you happen to be attending via your cell phone, and other distractions that you might have around you, and try to really give us your attention, because I can assure you, you are going to be receiving quality content today. I also want to give recognition to Will Hankey, who is our webinar master. This wouldn't be possible without Will Hankey. So thank you, Will, for your time and energy to help make this happen for us. And he will be driving the bus for us throughout the meeting. So Will, speaking of your skills, would you please be able to put up the agenda for today's meeting so we can just quickly review that, so our audience will have some idea about the fabulous speakers that we're going to be having today.
How's that?
First off, we have Andy Magnus, who's going to kick us off with the marketing spotlight. And I can't wait to hear what Andy has to say. Our to check out what tie he might be wearing, because that's always a bonus in Andy's presentations. Then after Andy, we will have the run showcase, and that will be presented to us by Mary Kuthice. And then after Mary comes up, we will have our grow showcase presented by Kara Gamber. And then following Kara will be our live showcase, and that will be Kathy Sexton. So you can quickly read for yourself. Print's kind of small on my screen, but print's not that important. It's about the actual presentation. And then once Kathy finishes thank you. That helps me. My contacts were having a bit of a time adjusting. Thank you, Will. You are the webinar master. And then after Kathy finishes the live showcase, then we will have Bill Burnett come up, our leader. And I don't know if you've heard, but since the last time we were in Bill's company, he gained another year on us, another year of wisdom. And so if you haven't had the opportunity, you can use the chat box to wish our leader, Bill Burnett, happy birthday. It was just yesterday, so it won't be all that belated. But just a sneak hint here. As always, Bill, we're talking about engagement in this meeting. Bill is going to be really interested not only in hearing your feedback and your comments, but especially he's going to want to know, what are you going to take away from today's meeting? That he'll want to know that you paid really close attention to each one of our speakers, and what takeaway did you receive that you're going to be able to put into action after today's meeting. And then after Bill, Cynthia will come up and she'll give us a sneak preview for the June E3 meeting. And then myself, I'll bring it home with closing remarks. And that's how the meeting will go today. And another housekeeping tip is the chat box. If you are familiar, which I'm sure a lot of you are, with virtual meetings, down at the bottom of your screen, there is an icon that says chat. And that will be where, because we won't be able to, with the numbers that we have in the meeting, we can't open up to actually hear from you, although we would love to. So we'll need to utilize that chat box for you to type in any questions that you have for each one of our presenters along the way, any comments, those takeaways that I gave you heads up that Bill's going to be looking for at the end of the meeting. So use the chat box. And for those of you that are not quite as familiar with the chat, there is a menu in the chat box where you can either elect to provide your comment to just the panelists, the speakers in today's meeting, or to everyone in the audience. So you'll want to make sure that you click the box for wherever you want your comment, feedback, question to go. All right, I think that's all I have for you to get us kicked off. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Magnus for the marketing spotlight. Take it away, Andy. And Andy, I think you're on mute.
I was, but I'm not now.
Great.
So good morning, everyone. Let me get my slides up here very quickly, and we'll. All right, can you see my slides?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the intentional introduction. It's very different now that we're virtual and doing many of our things, but you remember networking events, right? I mean, the thing that we used to attend in person, and so often we meet somebody at an event. Now we can certainly do it over the phone or on video chat, but have you ever met somebody that came up to you and they immediately started talking and, you know, just unloading their life story or their sales pitch on you? Well, just remember, you really never have an, okay, let me get my clicker going here. There we go. You never get a second chance to make a first good impression. So this is an opportunity for you to take a tool out with you. The intentional introduction is very short, it's very sweet, and it's in 4 parts. The 4 parts are: you greet, you identify yourself, you connect with the person, and you kind of set the tone or intent for that particular encounter. And then you can go on into a productive meeting. You're again making that first good impression. You're being efficient with it. So the greeting is, something simple. Hi, hello, nice to meet you. Then you introduce yourself. It says, hi, I'm Andy Magnus of Proactive Tax Pros. And that's a very, that is then, it sets who you are, and you can at that point allow them to introduce themselves or however flows. The third part is explaining in connection with the person. It's like, well, Bill Purnett suggested I talk to you. And then the fourth part is setting the tone or the intention. It's like, oh, I'd like to find out more about what you do so you can help my clients, or whatever the intention of that particular meeting is. It's short, it's sweet, it's practiced, and it's polished, and it makes a good first impression for people. Now, probably the best example I've seen of this comes from a movie. And in this movie, the individual has an intent on meeting a man, and he has his introduction down, his intentional introduction down, and he's practices it throughout the movie until he finally meets the six-fingered man and says, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die. It's from the movie The Princess Bride, if you know it. It's a wonderful movie. So we have the greeting, the introduction. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. It sets the content. You killed my father. This is our connection. Prepare to die. That's the intent of the meeting. So next time, is that not a perfect example? So next time you meet somebody, use the intentional introduction to make a better connection with the person you're connecting with. And thank you very much. Okay, now how do I stop sharing? There it is. So I'll pass it back to you, Glenda.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Great tips. Really appreciate it. I love your slides too. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Next up on the agenda in the Run Showcase is Mary Kuthice. And I believe, if I understand right, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, your intent is you will do your presentation, and people can, if they have questions for you, they should type them in the chat box, and you will address those questions at the end of your presentation.
That is correct. And I don't have a slide for you to look at, slides for you to look at, so you can look at the rest of the lovely panelists. Am I ready to go, Glenda?
You're ready to go.
Okay. My program today is on building mental muscle. And one of the things, I did webinars a long time ago, and I haven't done them in a while. So one of the things that's come back doing them more recently is how weird it is when you're talking to dead silence. So it is kind of nice at least being able to see the faces of the panelists, but I'm going to assume that you are responding enthusiastically to my questions and enjoying yourself immensely. So think about the current situation that we are in the country. I mean, imagine it's probably on your mind a little bit every single day. I mean, we've got COVID, the emotions that are created by people who are wearing masks or not wearing masks. We've got the same for social distancing. Are people social distancing? Are they not? Or do you mind? Or is it okay with you? What will become of children being educated from home? People worry about elderly parents, the economy, concerned about sales and business, job loss, whether or not people are going to find out what color our hair really is, and will we have enough toilet paper? All these kinds of things are running through our heads at any time of day, and that's just stuff that's happening now. I mean, when you look back at what our lives were, if you can remember back to what our lives were before all of this, there's plenty of stuff to think about then, to get wrapped around the spoke of. And so just the stuff that's going on a regular day-to-day basis, the issues that come up that you think about. Another area that is pretty prevalent in our thinking is something that's called the amygdala hijack. And that's a term that was coined by Daniel Goleman, who's the father of emotional intelligence. And what an amygdala hijack is an experience where your reaction to it is out of proportion to the event itself. And it's where that fight, flight, freeze, or I add fold comes into it, where it's the thing that used to be to protect us from getting eaten by a bear, but now often it's still, it comes up, but in reaction to someone, to a situation that's really uncomfortable, or to someone that you don't like, or to someone that pushes your triggers, whatever it is. So there's another situation where your brain is essentially in control of you. You're reacting in a way that has been the amygdala's been there for the entirety of our existence, and it's still working in pretty much the same way it always has. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I'd say in many cases, it's an unhelpful thing. So let's put all that stuff aside for a minute in terms of what's going on in our heads. Pretty clear to you all. I want to talk about the skills that you've learned over time. You've spent your entire life learning things. I mean, you learned how to walk, you learned how to read, maybe you learned how to build a deck or put air in your tires. You certainly learned how to do your job and continue to learn how to do your job if you're a continuous learner. Whatever it is that you've learned how to do, at first it was foreign and difficult. Think about when you got behind the wheel of a car the first time. It just felt, okay, this is scary, this is weird, I don't know if I can do this. And as you practiced over time, it became more natural. It was just, oh, you don't even think about walking anymore, unless maybe you've had too many martinis and then you have to think really hard about it. But you just do it every day without thinking. It's just the way your brain works now. It has been trained to think in that way. The same thing with filling up your car, or in some parts of doing your job. You can kind of do them without thinking. It's the way your brain has already been trained to do that. And that's because of neuroplasticity. Your brain has the ability to change. You can make your brain change with effort. You didn't know something before, and now you do. And the reason that is the case is due to neuroplasticity. So this is where I get into the part of the presentation where people may do a lot of eye rolling or run screaming from the room. But I want you to, it's only going to be about 15 more minutes. So hang in there. And if you stay with me to the end and you still think it's a bunch of bunk, then I respect that. But I want to talk to you about the thing that you can do that will train your brain for you. The one thing that you can do that will absolutely train your brain, and that's meditation. And before you leave or say, oh yeah, I've heard that before, I want to tell you, I was in the same camp of people saying, yeah, I'm not sure it's for me, because I tried for a decade, probably more than a decade, to develop a meditation practice. All the things that I've heard about what it can do for you, and all the science about how people who do it, their brains are different and better than the average person. And so I thought, I know that there's good reason to do this, but I couldn't do it. And there was a few reasons why. One, it was a little too woo-woo for me. I was afraid that I was going to have to start wearing tie-dye and burning incense in my house. There is nothing wrong with either one of those things. It's just not me. And I felt like it was a way more of an earthy, hippie kind of activity, and it just didn't align with who I am, and it didn't feel right. So that was one reason I didn't do it. The other was that you had to sit on the floor, in the middle of the floor, maybe on a cushion, but sitting up straight, cross-legged on the floor for a long time. And I can't do that. It's really uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable for my back. I mean, very quickly it would be that aches and pains I never knew I had. It's like, yeah, this isn't working. I'm not concentrating on, I'm not clearing my mind. I am focusing on how much everything hurts. And that the third thing was what I mentioned in the second thing, was that I was never able to clear my mind. I thought that you had to be able to clear your mind to meditate. So something changed, obviously, or I wouldn't be talking to you about the importance of this skill to develop. Here's what changed for me. One, I learned that it's not all hippies and incense, and that you don't have to sit cross-legged in the middle of the floor. I learned that it's not about clearing your head at all. In fact, success in the practice is if you sit and you decide to meditate for 2 minutes, and you decide in that 2 minutes that you're going to focus on your breath. So you focus on your breath, and very quickly your brain has gone off to something else. The second you realize that you have gone off to something else is when you are succeeding at meditation. When you were supposed to be, you intended to be focusing on your breath, and now you're thinking about payroll. And then you think, oh wait, this isn't the time to think about payroll. I want to focus on my breathing. The second that you recognize that and go back, you are succeeding at meditation. And that may happen 1,000 times in 2 minutes. What you're doing is you're practicing the ability to recognize when you are not in control of your thoughts. That's all it is. It's simply recognizing when you have started to get wrapped around the spoke of something that isn't helpful. And that's one of the key pieces of it too. When you recognize that you've stopped focusing on whatever it was, and it could be a word you're saying. If you like to be one of those people who say Om, you can do that. I mean, there's a ton of different ways that you can do this, whatever works for you. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the second that you realize you're not doing that, and even if it's been 5 minutes that you've been lost in thought, and now you realize, oh yeah, I wanted to be back practicing. That's the practice of meditation. And that's why they call it a practice. It's because this isn't going to come naturally. Just like all the other things that you learned didn't come naturally, this won't either. It's going to be day after day after day after day that you do it a little bit at a time. And as you get better, you start to recognize sooner that you're off on a tangent that may not be helpful to you. So let me tell you a little bit about my practice. And I don't think I can live long enough to be considered someone who is an expert on meditation. I mean, people who I've been learning from now have been doing it for, some of them for 50 years. So I've been doing it around 140 days every day, somewhere between 2 and 30 minutes, and 2 minutes counts. 1 minute counts. Any little bit that you're doing counts. The other thing that's very interesting is that you don't have to be sitting on a cushion in the middle of the floor. You can sit on your sofa. You can be lying down. There are sleep meditations. You can meditate while you're walking. You can meditate while you're brushing your teeth. The idea is that all of those things that you're doing, you're just focusing on what you're doing at the time. And when you're brushing your teeth for 2 minutes, and I have one of those toothbrushes that, those electric ones where it goes for 2 minutes so you know that you're brushing a long enough time. Well, in that 2 minutes, I try to focus on brushing my teeth. And when I realize I've thought about my day, and I practice going back to, oh no, this is brushing my teeth time, to think about that. Again, that's the meditative practice. You can sit on a chair. I mean, you can do it any way you like. You don't have to buy a meditation cushion. And if you have back or discomfort issues, you don't have to sit cross-legged. You don't have to do any of that stuff. What you're doing is training your brain. Sometimes it's related to a specific challenge. My husband just got riffed last week. And so a lot of my meditation has been focused around that, and we're going to be okay. And my business does just fine, and all that kind of thing. So, but it is kind of one of those things like, oh, wait, this is a freak out. But how useful is it to stay in the place of freak out? It's zero use. It's recognizing that wherever my brain is going, is this doing me any good or isn't it? Is it useful or is it not? The other thing with my practice is that I haven't made it too complicated. Now, I do use an app, which I'll talk about in a little bit, which allows you to have a streak. And the only reason the streak is helpful to me is I want to make sure I do it as often as possible. I mean, I tend to forget things. I usually don't refuse to do things. Well, if they have to do with banking and investments and stuff. I usually refuse to do them because I don't like that stuff. But in terms of this, I'm not refusing, I'm just not remembering. So getting into the routine of doing this, the streak thing helps. But the other thing is you're not failing if you forget to meditate for a day or 2 or 3 or 5. It's just, it's putting your practice back a little bit. It's making you less far along on it feeling more natural or recognizing it more quickly. But you're still doing okay. It's not a big deal. So the results of what you're trying to achieve here is your thoughts. You're neither trying to shove them away, nor are you trying to wallow in them. Because not allowing yourself to think about worrisome stuff or stuff that's making you angry, not allowing yourself to think about it doesn't fix it and doesn't make it go away. It's still in there and it's going to come out another way sometimes. You also don't want to wallow in it. When I talk to clients, I say, when bad things happen, you're allowed to wallow in it as long as the same amount of time that you rejoice in your successes. You're allowed to wallow the equivalent amount of time that you rejoice in your successes. And actually, in practice, that's not true, but we certainly rejoice a lot shorter than we wallow, just in our nature. It's noting, is this useful, what I'm thinking or what I'm not thinking? It's reactions to triggers. There are certain situations, as practiced as I can be, both in this and emotional intelligence, there are people and situations that trigger me. And learning how to react better, learning how to slow down the amygdala hijack and behave in a way that is more in alignment with my core values and my beliefs, that's been a result. Still practicing, and we'll be practicing until the day I die on that. You don't meditate to become a better meditator. You meditate to navigate life more artfully. You never hear an accomplished meditator, someone who's been doing it for a long time, talk about how good a meditator they are. They really blanch at that kind of designation. They're not going to do it. You do it so that you live a better life, so that you can try to be a better person. It's not about what a great meditator one is. And here's kind of a bonus. You hear tell, boy, I would love an exercise program where I can just sit on my couch and do nothing. This is one of them. You sit on your couch and you do nothing, and you are exercising your brain. So that's a pretty great win. I want to give you a few resources, a couple resources. I got a book here. My favorite, where this shift happened for me was when I read a book. Actually, I listened to a book called 10% Happier by a guy named Dan Harris, who was a correspondent for ABC and had an on-air anxiety attack. And from there began his journey into meditation. And he's kind of a hard-edged, cynical kind of guy. So I think the fact that, and I'm not hard-edged and cynical, but he's not woo-woo. And so I think I could kind of relate to the things that drove him away from meditation at first, but ultimately helped him. So he has a book, he has an app, he has a website where every single day at 2 p.m. Central, they do a live kind of discussion and meditation for 20 minutes, which if you can get on that is awesome. It's free and it's out there. So that's been extremely helpful, and it has all sorts of guided meditations and lessons and things like that. And the education has been extraordinarily helpful for me because I didn't learn all this stuff prior to this. I learned it all through the education and the practice of what I'm doing right now. And there's also a book, I'll just hold this up so that you can see it. It's called Meditation in a New York Minute. So if you're a really busy person and you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, this guy can tell you how to do it. And if you think, it's interesting, he was trained as an investment banker, and he was the interim COO for JP Morgan. So, this is a guy who was out there in the corporate world, and he was doing all the big corporate stressful stuff before he moved into being the meditation practice and ultimately a teacher. So I also recommend that because there's lots of ideas in there for how you can spend 1 minute training your brain. I have one more thing I want to say, but Will, are there any questions that anybody has out there?
We do have some questions. We've got about 3 minutes left.
Okay, perfect.
So there were a couple comments. I'm going to skip those and go to the questions. Richard says, so the ideal meditation is being continually focused on your breathing and not wandering, question mark.
Well, here's the thing. If that is the focus of your meditation at that point, because in that session, because there's different kinds of meditation. There's one, and this, people will bristle sometimes at this too, but there's a loving kindness meditation where you're actually trying to focus on sending loving kindness to someone that really matters to you. Send it to someone that you don't know very well, but you interact with. Sending it to just the world in general, and then sending it to someone that you don't like. So it takes you through that whole, what you're thinking about in that time is focusing yourself on thinking about sending those kinds of thoughts, training your brain to think those kinds of thoughts, both for the people who are close to you, but also for the people who impact you some of the time, and the world, and people you don't like. And talk about a lesson trying to send loving kindness to people that you don't like. That will change your brain.
Thanks,
Next
Mary.
question.
One quick one from Richard. Is there an ideal specific amount of time to meditate? And then Bill asked, how do we recognize when we are in victim mode, and what do we need to get back on track? And you have to answer them fairly quickly.
I'll do that. There isn't an ideal time. I mean, I would say start small. If you could do 10 minutes, I'd say that's great. If you could do 10 minutes every day for a month, that's great. Many of them are guided, that helps. And in terms of being a victim, I mean, that is getting wrapped around the spoke of the victimhood. So you have to, part of the education is learning when you have gotten yourself into victimhood. How do you recognize when you are starting to behave and think like a victim? You got to know that first. And then you've got to recognize when your brain pattern has gone off into that, so that you can say, is this useful? Is thinking about me being a victim, is this useful to me? Is this helping me move forward? So that's kind of a two-step process.
All right, thank you, Mary.
You're very, and if anybody has any other questions, they're more than welcome to email me, and I'm happy to chat with anybody at any time.
I did also share the link to that book that you mentioned, to the Amazon link in the
Oh,
chat.
awesome. Oh, awesome. And 10% Happier, the one I didn't have because I have an audio. That one's, I highly recommend that one as well. A lot of education in there. He does cuss sometimes in it though, so if you don't like that, then stay away from that one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mary. What a timely topic in today's times. Thank you so much. And thank you for making me feel a little bit better about myself. I certainly continue to practice meditation. I want to do things right, and I get too caught up in that when my mind wanders, I'm not doing it right. And I'm like, this is not for me. But
And now you know you are. Now you know when you recognize your mind has wandered, you are absolutely doing it right.
I feel so much better. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Great presentation today, Mary. Thank you. All right, next up, the Grow Showcase. And let's hear now from Kara Gamberg. Kara, take it away.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Today we're going to talk about the value of uncovering unspoken needs. So first I'd like to address all the married men. Has this ever happened to you? So you notice your wife being unusually quiet and withdrawn, and you ask her, hey, is everything okay? And she tentatively says, yes. And you take her at face value, even though her actions aren't really lining up with her words. Then one thing leads to another. And the next thing you know, you're sleeping on the couch with the short blanket and the dog. People don't always say what they mean or mean what they say. Here's another one. Your client comes to you and says, I just want it simple. I just want simple. Okay, what does that mean? Black and white? That's pretty simple to me. Maybe less copy, more white space? That seems simple. what if they think simplifying the design will make it simple for them, when actually what they really need is a process to help them automate their orders, and that will make it simple for them. People don't always know what they really want. They don't really know what they want, and they don't know how to voice it. Sometimes people voice a specific desire when under the surface there's actually an unspoken need that's calling to be met. Let's take a look at this. Everybody has core needs. And this goes across all cultures, male, female. We all have core needs, and here's 3 of them. We have the need to be and feel respected. We have the need to be and feel heard. And we have the need to be and feel valued. And there's a whole lot more here. And what I'd like you to do is, if you can think of one, go ahead and put it in the chat box right now. So let me ask you this. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word salesman? First thing that pops into your head, salesman. This is what comes into my mind when I think about a salesman. So I've never really thought of myself as a salesman, but actually as an entrepreneur, aren't we all salespeople or salesmen? And isn't it then our responsibility as an honest salesperson to uncover what our customers or clients really need, not just what they say or what they want? And what really got me thinking about this, let me stop the share here. What really got me thinking about this was a conversation I had with a client of mine in November. We'd been working together exactly 1 year. And at the time, I was just beginning to rework my business and my business model, and I started the process of rebranding. And since she was hitting all of the check boxes for my ideal client, I decided to ask her some questions about the value that I brought to her. And I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I did not expect her to say what she did say. And she said this to me. She said, Kara, you saved me. You saved my business. Full disclosure here, my first thought was, are you talking to me? I mean, I'm being fully transparent here. I really didn't know what I had done. I mean, that was my thought. What the heck did I do? Okay, so hear me out here. Technically speaking, yes, sure. Site design, web development, marketing plan. But there were some needs here that got met that went way beyond plugin updates and proper meta descriptions. So honestly, I just couldn't let this sit. So I decided to spend some time reflecting, meditating, thinking about this, and doing a little reverse engineering. And so today we're going to talk about what I discovered. Let's go back here to share. When uncovering hidden needs, be somebody who asks the right questions. So before I'd have a conversation with her, a scheduled conversation, what I would do is I would jot down questions. And these are questions that I knew that would dig deeper and go beyond just one-word responses. I kept my questions open, friendly, and specific to make sure I would receive the information that would give me complete clarity on what her vision was on a given topic. So having been in sales for 50 years, I asked Bill Pernot if he wouldn't mind sharing some valuable nuggets of wisdom on the subject of asking the right questions. Bill, it's all you. Bill on?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, first of all, 50 years is a long time to sell. I had forgotten that I've been selling that long.
Well, you told me that, so that's the only reason I brought that
Well, you weren't
up.
supposed to kiss and tell.
I'm sorry. Better than dog years. Better than dog years.
So what I'd like to do is to build on all three of the core needs that Kara just talked about. One of the things that we tend to forget is that we tend to talk too much. And I would encourage you to talk about 20% of the time and engage your clients in a conversation about 80% of the time. So we tend to talk, we almost do that in reverse. So one of the fundamental principles you'll see on the screen here is that we really need to be aware that people are more interested in making the decision to buy because we appeal to their emotions. So when we talk about appealing to their emotions, Kara, could you go back with one?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. So when we talk about appealing to their emotions, you I'm sure have heard the term, lead with benefits and support with features. So features do not appeal to people's emotions. Benefits do. So that's the thinking behind leading with benefits and then supporting it with features. So when we ask relevant, well thought out questions, we engage our prospects in a discussion that prevents buying resistance, very important, and allows the prospect to come to their own conclusion without feeling pressure or manipulated. Kara, you mentioned earlier the whole idea of that snake oil salesperson. That's typically because we are trying to sell people stuff. I doubt if there's anybody on the call here today that wants to be sold, that you really love to be sold. And so how do you do that? You engage people in the conversation. Thank you, Kara. If you go to that next slide. So ego questions are simply making a conscious choice about which questions to ask a prospect and do that in a sales cycle way. So if you're on a call with a prospect that you've just met, this process typically includes all three steps: engaging, genuine interest, and opportunities. It's important for you to realize that we earn the right to ask about the prospect's business by first earning their trust. Probably the major mistake that people make in selling is they think they're going to get somebody to take an order. In the training that we used to do when I was with U.S. Food Service, we really drilled our salespeople that the purpose of the initial call was to get another appointment, not to get an order, right? And so that happens to us all the time. We're so interested in, we got to get the order, No, what you need is, you don't want to get to know. What you do is you really just want to get to the next meeting. You can roll that slide for me, Kara. So engaged questions, generally speaking, show interest and enthusiasm on your part by asking questions about the customer's persona, the customer's industry, or trends in the industry. Go ahead, you can go to the next. So genuine interest questions probe into the challenges or issues of your prospect's customer or the prospect's business. One of the things that we frequently don't do a very good job preparing is thinking about the prospect's customer, because frankly, if we can help them grow their business, they'll be interested in doing more business with us. Next slide. So opportunities questions are a deeper dive into the prospect's readiness to explore solutions to the opportunities previously surfaced in the first two steps. Bear in mind that you have to be watching for buying signals that will tell you how quickly you should go through all three of these stages. Otherwise, you will get to know quickly. The purpose of the initial call is to get another appointment, not to sell something. So that's it, Kara. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I want to tap into the brilliance here in our virtual room. So if anybody has an example of a question that you asked that turned your fail into a sale, please put it in the chat box. So if you have an example of a question that turned a fail into a sale, please share that in the chat box with us. I do want to say how thankful I am to be a part of the E4E community. I'm not naturally taken by networking events in general, but this group of people is exceptional. And one of the first friendly faces I met when I started attending was Dale Furtwängler. Bill describes that talking to Dale is like eating creamy peanut butter. And Bill, I have to say, I agree 100%. Dale is a skilled communicator, especially in the art of listening. And this brings me to my second point here, second discovery. And that is be an active listener. So I remember that specifically from May to August with this client, I spent a bulk of that time just listening. I didn't really offer advice or come up with any profound answers that I recall either. I just listened and learned and cataloged what I heard. And one aspect of active listening is called paraphrasing. And since this is what gives Dale his creamy center, he's going to share his wisdom on this subject. Dale, you are up.
Interestingly, creamy peanut butter is one of my favorite foods, so I didn't realize it was being reflected in that way. But anyway, yeah, the paraphrasing is basically just restating what somebody said. And here's some typical phrases that we use to make sure that we do understand what they're saying. And that's really, in my mind, the purpose of paraphrasing, is to make sure that I'm understanding what it is that they're saying. And it's so essential that I want to get it done early in the process. So if I've misinterpreted what they're saying, then I'm going to be looking for clarification from them. That's going to help me understand what it is that they're trying to achieve. So if you will, Kara, go ahead and advance it. So we're looking at understanding is our primary purpose, and then clarification if I've misinterpreted. But that's not the only use of clarification. There are times when what the person has communicated to me was done in rather vague language, and that indicates to me that they don't have a clear enough understanding of what it is that they're trying to accomplish or the challenge that they're facing. And so my rephrasing in those situations is to add more precise language to the description of what they just said in hopes that they'll get greater clarity about what it is they're trying to accomplish or what challenge they're facing. But, excuse me, one of the things that happens, whether I hit it the first time and in my paraphrasing I saying exactly what they meant, or whether it's through the clarification process, the first thing that we both experience is relief. They're relieved to know that I understand what they're saying. And I'm relieved to know that I understood what they said, so that I know that what I'm going to be saying going forward is going to be relevant and beneficial to them. And immediately on the heels of relief comes trust. When people feel like they've been heard and understood, they trust you a lot more. And that's in part because, as in paraphrasing, there's no judgment. so that when I paraphrase what they're saying, I'm just feeding back the same information they gave me, just in a different form. But it solidifies my understanding, but it also generates trust on their part because there was no judgment in my communication. So between the fact that they feel relieved that I understand them, that I heard them, and that there was no judgment in anything that I said, gives them the ability to trust me. And through that, we create a bond. And that bond is created for primarily those two reasons. One is that the person feels comfortable. They know I care enough to have listened and understood what they said. And they also realize that there's no judgment, that I'm not judging what they said at all. So there's a bond that's being created there. And that bond then results in openness, which means that they're going to be more candid with me as we go forward because I'm not judging them. Now, go back, if you will, Carol. We're not ready for those yet. But the bond that we create helps them become more candid in telling me, so they'll reveal their vulnerabilities a lot more readily as part of that process. But it also opens their minds to new ideas, which then takes us to the next element, which is influence. So when we've created that bond and that trust is there, then that opens the door to me to have greater influence in helping them achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve or to overcome whatever challenge they're facing at that point. So with influence, then I have a better opportunity. The probability of me being able to help them goes up dramatically. And then that brings us to the final stage, which is results. And here, we're going to either find a way for them to accelerate the achievement of what they're trying to achieve, or we're going to help them overcome a challenge they're facing more quickly. And it reinforces the caring that I'm demonstrating throughout this process, which again just intensifies the bond that we've created, strengthens it, and lays the foundation for a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship. So that's why I use paraphrasing so frequently. And Kara, I want to thank you for inviting me to do this segment, because in the past I used paraphrasing simply because I knew it worked. Going forward, I'll be using it because now I know why it works. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So one of the things that I miss about being in the meetings, besides being face-to-face with you, Dale, is Will's app. I know we're getting close on time here. I'm going to wrap it up here, but it's the app proved. And I want to show you really quick, just speaking of listening, about an app. You can get it on an iPhone or you can get it on an Android. I know I'm going to show you on an iPhone here. It will help improve your listening skills. And basically on an iPhone, you press these two buttons and this comes up. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. And then you swipe. It turns off your iPhone and then you set it down. That will improve your listening skills by 100%. So back to the story. In September of this year, the client and I met to further discuss the fourth quarter marketing plan. And after meeting, we casually walked around the craft expo in St. Charles for about 45 minutes. And in a follow-up conversation, she mentioned that she couldn't remember laughing the last time she laughed so much. And she said she also felt like she was finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Which brings me to my third point. I'm not going to share a slide. I'm just going to tell you, it's basically be your authentic self. I let my guard down, and as a result, so did she. Being real brings real results. And so just a quick fast forward here. It's been about 18 months since I started working with this client. In January, We set a goal to double her sales and get her to the $500,000 mark in her sales by the end of the year. And I'm excited and thrilled to report that we have surpassed that goal, and we are on track to break $1 million this year.
Wow.
Really, really exciting. So I just want to let you know that although we're living in uncertain times, you know, Mary talked about it, Glenda talked about, we're all talking about it. We feel a little isolated and far from what we knew as normal just a couple months ago. It's important more than ever now that we keep the lines of communication open. And by asking strategic questions, listening actively, and showing up authentically, we can confidently stand in the face of this new normal and expect to grow, thrive, and succeed. Oh, and for all you married men, who knows, at the end of the day, this just might help you avoid a night on the couch with a short blanket and a smelly dog. Back to you, Glenda.
Hey, great, Kara. Oh my goodness. We got some gold this morning with Mary's presentation and yours. Awesome, awesome. And I love, Kara, how you demonstrated don't fly alone by bringing Bill and Dale into your presentation. Right on, girl. That was awesome. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am sure that all of you, I'm taking lots of notes from the presenters, and I know we're going to have some great takeaways and feedback for Bill at the end of our meeting today. So without further ado, unless, Will, do we see some burning question, or should we hold it to the end of the meeting for Kara?
Yeah, we'll wait for the end.
Okay. All right. Next up, let's bring up Kathy Sexton to do our Live showcase. So Kathy, take it away.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right?
You are now, my friend.
So I basically wanted to talk about bright lines today. And I don't know if anybody has ever heard that term before, but I think it's a term that I had never heard before and has become really an asset in my life. So life comes in peaks of joy and happiness, and valleys of fear and, in some cases, heartache. Life is like a roller coaster ride, and each rise and fall defines our journey. We all have life challenges, and we all know that, of course, I have had my share in the last few years. But today, I want to talk about a lifelong struggle that I have lived with since I was very, very young. Oh, where did we go here? So really in the midst of, you know, those up and down cycles that we all have, and of course with what's going on right now, I think there's a lot of this going on, you know, the fear, the anxiety, the worry, and it really is the way we look at life and the way we move through life. But we all go through these ups and downs in our lifetime. Maybe you with some kind of, might have some kind of change that you want to make. It could be to, you know, stop smoking, stop drinking, gossiping, start an exercise program, start eating healthier, make more sales calls. And there are so many areas in our lives, and for each of us, we struggle in different ones. So as I talk about what I discovered on my journey, you might be able to apply some of this towards something that you can start or stop doing. So let's start at the beginning. Here I am, age 2. And then here I am at age 3.5. And as you can see, I was a little chunk, to say the least. Weight loss has always been a life challenge for me. I have been on the roller coaster of weight loss for most of my 67 years. And I have been up and down the roller coaster way too many times. Last August, around my birthday, I came to the point in my life that I was starting to get very concerned about my health. I was really struggling, and I happened to read an article that piqued my interest. After more research and learning more about it, I found a way to slow down that roller coaster so that I could get off. Not knowing at the time the program I found would be the easiest thing I've ever done regarding my weight. And I truly mean the easiest. So I want to talk about Bright Line Eating. Bright Line Eating is the plan I went on, but it's not really what I want to share in the program today. But basically, Bright Line Eating, it's a science around food and how it affects our brain. And there are basically 4 bright lines: no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, and you either weigh or measure your food. And again, it's really not about the program I'm on, but I really want to talk about is what I discovered along this process of implementing the program and why I feel like it was working for me. So when we think about the lines in a road, they're there to keep us alive, right? We must stay on the right side of the road and not cross over. There's no, I'll drive on the left right now and I'll drive on the right later, or I'll straddle the line, because when we do, it could be very dangerous for us or even fatal. And that's basically where I was basically most of my life with my weight challenges, is I was straddling the line, or I was on some really, maybe on the left side a little bit too much. And when the road gets curvy or it's nighttime, it's even more important for us to follow the bright lines. And the bright lines really made it easy for me. They were not gray lines. Either it was food that I could eat or food I could not eat. No straddling the lines. I can't go to the left today and then do it differently tomorrow. I had to learn that I had to make sure I was staying within the lines. So in my case, I used a mantra, NMF, which is not my food, when I thought about crossing the lines. So I use this mantra. I still use it. I use it daily usually, especially when I'm watching TV and that food comes up and, you know, it's always so tempting and looking so good. And I just say to myself, that's not my food. And it really has helped along the way. So just like the line in the road, I have to make sure I stay on the right side. So even though Bright Lines is the foundation of my weight journey, I think there are some really other essential pieces that have added to my success. And I really wanted to think about, why is this so different than it's ever been for me before? Of course, it always starts with a mental decision to do something differently, no matter what it is. You know, Mary talked about kind of habits, but in this case, it was thinking differently due to some newfound information I found regarding food and the brain. And that my weight problem was not all caused by food, or me overeating, I should say. So learning about where I was on the food susceptibility scale when it came to my brain and the food I was eating made a huge shift for me. So I realized that first I had to make the decision, but that decision was really, the reason why it was different is because I was more informed. I was more educated than I'd ever been before. The second step was, once again in my life, what I've had to learned that I've learned really truly in the last 5 years is taking one day at a time and do my best for that day and that day only. And that's what really helped me in this process. It was not about where I wanted to go, where I felt like my goal was, or just that I can't eat this or I can't. It's just about today. What can I do today? And I just had to embrace and learn that it truly does matter what I do today. And I'm not worrying about tomorrow. I'm not worrying about next week. So in the case, I found that it was really not about me losing weight. It's just what was I focusing on that I needed to do today. In the book that I read, I also want to talk about a story that she talks about. The Bright Line Eating is by Susan Pierce Thompson, but she also had a drug addiction and alcohol addiction. And she was in an AA meeting, and this grumpy old man would get up every day and he'd say, you know, I'm an alcoholic and, you know, I'm not going to have a drink today. Now I might drink tomorrow, but I'm not going to drink today. And she thought, why is he sabotaging himself? And she soon realized that it really doesn't matter about tomorrow. We're not thinking about tomorrow. Is what can you do today to make whatever you want to happen, happen. So that's number 2. Then number 3, when making change, we tend to have a false picture of how success happens. And I think this was probably one of the crucial, is one of the crucial pieces also, because we often see only the results. And almost never do we look at the process involved to achieve that result. And when we tend to think that the finished product is brilliant, in fact, it's likely the opposite. Success is in the learning process of the process. In the learning and the lessons in the process, sorry. So number 3 was I had to ask for help. So I read the book. I really got involved in the community for Bright Line Eating. And it had proven to me that if we don't get support we need, and we ask for support a lot of times, especially in our business, but we don't use it. We ask for it, we ask everybody, but if they don't tell us the answers that we want, we tend to discard it. So what happens is other things will show up, like lack of self-confidence, fear, maybe shame or depression. Maybe the worst thing, and that's us not showing up to the world for who we really are, like Kara talked about being authentic. And one of the biggest missing pieces to truly make changes in our lives and in our business is accountability. And you know, I've talked about accountability in some of my presentations before, but this piece is what keeps us where we are, or it takes us where we want to go. When we're trying to do things differently, but we just can't seem to move the needle far enough, or we just can't seem to make it happen, it's time to look at support and accountability, because they can make the difference. So accountability, the things we do, but it's also the things that we don't do. And it is a scientifically sustained fact that support and accountability keeps us motivated and really living and working towards our goals. So who can help us? Someone who has been there where we want to go. That's a great person to look for in an accountability partner. They will test you. Accountability partner will challenge you, and they also will be your cheerleader along the way. So even though, you know, there are many people that can be your accountability partner, a friend, a family member, mentor, staff, mastermind group, accountability group, a coach, business or life. And even as a coach myself, I have coaches and mentors and mastermind groups and accountability groups. My daughter, a lot of you know Tammy, and she is my biggest cheerleader. My mentors help me think through the ideas and my thoughts. My coaches, I have a business coach who guides me and keeps me on track and accountable for my business. And then I have a coach for personal mindset. My mastermind groups, of course, one of my best groups is a group of E for E. members, and it's a group of colleagues that give me feedback. And the biggest thing they do is challenge me to think differently. And then they support me. And then I'm also in another mastermind group where all the women it's all women and they're all business owners. And it's a teaching learning environment and also learning experience for helping us to grow our businesses. And then I'm also in an accountability group that keeps me focused and moving towards a project that I'm working on. So regarding my Bright Line eating, I have referred to others that have already been there. There are plenty of support out there for me to continue, but my biggest thing is continuing my education and knowing that I have the support in this process. So my question to you is, do you have others that support you, especially when you're trying to make that big, huge shift in your business and your personal life? What about the challenges and struggles that you might be facing that you do think, I'd really like to change that? It's really about who supports you, who is going to help you along the way, because we as E4E participants really know it's not about flying alone. It's about flying together and having that help. So first is the mental decision, right? And that shift for me came with a lot of education. And then I created my Bright Line. So when you're trying to, what can be those bright lines for you about not crossing the line? Because it's too easy for us to say, well, I'll do it today, but I'll go this way today, but tomorrow I'll get on track. But we really need to set bright lines so that we constantly don't cross those lines. And 3, take every minute, every hour, and every day at a time. In case for me, for weight loss, it's not about where I'm going or where I'm going to end up. It's about what am I doing today to make my life better. And then for the support and the accountabilities. So I really feel like those are the keys to change. And in July of 2019, the picture on the left, and then currently that picture was taken in March, so it's 2 months later, but I'm currently down 75 pounds. I don't believe I have this weight thing kicked in any way, but I have continued my Bright Lines one day at a time with all the support that I have. So that's what I have, and have any questions?
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
So Thad said, in quotes, success is not the destination. Success is the learning along the way. Brilliant.
Yes, I definitely feel like that's what I've learned through this process, and that's why I wanted to share it.
Yeah. Dale said that mental decision is a conscious decision. All too often we decisions subconsciously based on emotion.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times it's our subconscious that's really driving our decisions. And so until we're aware of those and we can challenge those and start really making more conscious decisions is when the success really happened.
Cynthia says, congratulations, Kathy, you are an inspiration. Andy says the key is a change in mindset, which I totally agree with. Richard says, you look awesome, keep going. And Kara says, so proud of you, Kathy. Ian says, congrats, Kathy. So.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. Glenda, back to you.
Yeah, I can only echo what the others have said. Kathy, oh my goodness, thank you so much for you sharing your journey with us today. And I loved how you not only shared the program that you've embraced, but, you told us, what the learning along the way, what it's been for you, which was very, very powerful. So thank you and congratulations. I can't say that enough about your success. I'm so excited for you, what you've been able to accomplish. You go, girl. You're an inspiration to us all. Thank you. All right. So I think according to the agenda, because I'm a rule follower, it looks like to me next up we have Bill Purnett to bring this all together. So Bill and Will, I guess you guys can look at if we have some takeaways in there, or I'm sure you guys can tag team this so we can get the feedback, comments, and takeaways about today's meeting.
Will, I think you've covered most everything so far. Is there anything that you haven't been able to cover?
Nothing yet, but if anybody has any takeaways, go ahead and put them in there.
Okay, I'll go ahead, and if you keep an eye on that, Will, I'll go ahead with a few comments then. First of all, I want to welcome Greg Porto. Greg is a new E3 subscriber. He signed up this month. We love having new subscribers. It's kind of an indication of the people that have an interest ongoing in us. And so, Greg, thanks for becoming part of E3 this month. Kathy, I'm not really sure about this idea of this grumpy old man. I wasn't sure if you were talking about me or who you might have been talking about there. No, just kidding. So I think I can't imagine every time we have a meeting, I am always in awe of how I always think, wow, this meeting couldn't get any better. You know, the presentations couldn't get any better. And once again, the presentations today I found just absolutely awesome. So thanks for the effort on everybody's part to put those together. I think most of you know that coaching is what I do for a living, and I like to think of having a toolbox, you know, that each of us has our own toolbox. Unfortunately, what I see a lot is that most of us have the toolbox locked and that we're not really using the tools that we have available to us. So you may or may not know this about me, but I think it's safe to say that I am obsessed with excellence. My own personal excellence, the excellence of the people that I hang out with. And to me, it's a lifelong pursuit. I learned just recently something, though, that was interesting to me, and I hope that it helps you. I was not aware that there is a concept called the hierarchy of competence. The hierarchy of competence. Didn't know it existed, but the hierarchy of competence suggests that there's 4 stages before we actually get to the point of achieving things with what we learned. Stage 1 is aware. So today, you became aware of some new tools for your toolbox. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to accept, and that's stage 2 of the process of first awareness and then acceptance. But ultimately, until we act on those things that we learned or achieve with the things we learned, we really basically wasted our time. So our appeal to you, E4E's appeal to you, is that you think about this hierarchy of competence and how well you're applying the things that you're learning, that you're becoming aware of, how well you're accepting them, how well you're applying them, and ultimately they will make a difference in your lives. But I think we have to look at it as a process. It's a lifelong pursuit. I know it was new news to me, and I found it really interesting for myself. So, Will, was there anything else that came in while we were waiting?
Yeah, there's a couple. Thad said, excellent program today, very pertinent and timely for the current situation. Thank you to all the speakers. Dale said, Mary's message that meditation takes many forms. Too often we get locked into a vision of what it should be. Andy said, I always walk away learning something that I didn't know that I didn't know, and in true Andy style. And let's see, Cynthia said, Bill, all the presentations today were about communications, either with others or self.
Excellent point. So I think that leads us to Cynthia. Thank you very much today for being with us. Cynthia, tell us about our next webinar.
Okay, I'm just sharing my screen so you can see what's coming up for June. First of all, amazing. We had 6 fabulous presenters today. It was just phenomenal. If you want more details about the June meeting, you can always visit our meetup page, which is meetup.com/E4E community. Wednesday, June 17th, we will be meeting via Zoom. So look for your Zoom invites. We have 4 great speakers lined up. Dale Furtwängler will be doing our marketing spotlight. Gail Moran will be doing our run showcase, talking about 2020 goals. We are halfway there. As we started this year, you may remember we had good intentions. We had our word for the year and we were ready to take on 2020. So how are we doing? Do we need to step up and commit again so that when 2020 comes to a close, can we be proud of what we have accomplished? Let's take a look and see where we are headed. John Ayers will be doing the Growth Showcase, utilizing customer testimonials. John will share why you need testimonials, how important is a genuine client success story, and how to get them. And Will Henke will be doing one of his famous business approved. Will, do you know yet what you'll be covering?
Business apps.
Okay. Cool. Well,
Cynthia, this would really be long-term planning for Will. This would be out of character for him.
I should have remembered that. Sorry, Will, to put you on the spot.
It's okay. It's all good.
But we all love it when you do the business approved because it's always new and cool stuff, exciting apps designed to make our lives easier and more productive. So,
I won't be sharing Zoom, I guess. I'll take that one off the list, right?
oh, okay, maybe. But knowing you, there are probably some things about Zoom that you can tell us that the rest of us haven't learned yet. So don't take it off the list yet. Anyway, I want to thank any of you who are guests for the first time. If you're interested in joining us on a regular basis, be sure to ask one of us about the subscriber discount. And thanks again for joining us. We appreciate you being here. And Glenda, I'll hand it back over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Cynthia. I can't wait when I see the lineup. Man, you're gonna want to be here next month because we're gonna have some great presentations. I just have a couple announcements before we close. Thank you all very much, partners, subscribers, and our guests today for joining us for the May meeting. We love having you, and thank you for your tenacity to continue in our community virtually. We love it. It wouldn't be, certainly wouldn't be what it is without all of you attending. Partners and subscribers will be pre-registered for the June meeting, so you don't have to worry about that. And as Cynthia indicated, if you have interest in joining our community, you can certainly reach out to our leader, Bill Purnett, or one of the other E4E partners. Guests to register for next month's meeting can register through our meetup. We are a meetup, and that is E4E community, as well as you can find out more information about E4E via our website. So I think that's all I have for you today. I so appreciate the opportunity to see people, to actually see people. I'm a little tired. I love my husband, but oh my goodness, it's so good to see other people. So thank you for joining. We hope that both you and your family continue to be well, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, Glenda.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you, Glenda.
Very welcome. Be
Yeah,
safe.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.